Community has launched the campaign to try and counter the extremists.
Now speaking out to denounce terror and extremism.
30,000 people formed a human chain in the south this afternoon in the name of peace.
We're asking if religious intolerance is on the rise.
We believe that religious freedom is a fundamental human right.
Giving a message that Islam is a religion of peace.
We must all endeavor to spread love and a sense of community.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the live show of MT International, the Press Point. This show is in fact the last show of the year 2015. We'll try to cover some of the areas within Pakistan with relation to persecution of minorities, the minorities in religious sense in Pakistan, and see how 2015 has unfolded. Has the year been any better year than the previous years, and what could be done by the government and masses in Pakistan? I'm joined on the show by four eminent guests, which we'll discuss about a bit later on. For the time being, let's go to my co-host, Ghaalib Khan. Ghaalib Khan, tell us a bit about what you're doing today.
Jazakallah Farooq Sahib. So my role in the show is to look at the online community and see what they're saying. I'll be bringing all the social media updates and also showing some of the articles from newspapers online. And it's a perfect opportunity to remind our viewers at home that you can get in touch with us as well at Presspoint MTA. The address should be there for you at the bottom of the screen. For those who are living in Pakistan, what is it like to live as a minority in Pakistan? And for those living in other countries, wherever you are watching this program around the world, what do you think about the situation there in Pakistan? What can we do as a wider audience to help that? So Farooq Sahib, I'll be bringing those updates throughout the program.
Excellent, thank you very much. Today, of course, as always, we'll have four eminent guests, two guests in the studio, very respectable guests, and two guests outside the studio from on Skype, one from the US, one from the UK. And these four guests we have, three of them are independent journalists, and one of them is the head of the Ahmadiyya community in the UK, the president of Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the UK, Mr. Rafiq Ahmed Hayat. Assalamu alaikum, Rafiq Sahib.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
Also on your left side is Ms. Hina Saeed. She is a producer, an anchor, and a presenter on Channel 24. Thank you very much for being on the show as well.
Thank you for inviting me.
And also we have on Skype with us Mr. Raza Rumi, who is a well-known figure. He has been very active on social media. He's an active member in Journalist Society, where in fact he's been writing on electronic media, he's been working electronic media as well as on the press media. At the same time, we'll also have Mr. Saklan Imam, who is working in BBC and has had a long history and long number of years of experience working in journalism in Pakistan as the president of Lahore Press Club and Punjab Union of Journalists. Let's start the discussion, and I think before we start this, let's look at some stories that have been of interest recently. And Ghaalib Khan Sahib can show us some of the stories which might be of discussion a bit later on.
We're talking about the persecution of minorities in Pakistan, and there was a very recent attack that happened in Jhelum, and I've got that on screen at the moment. So from the Dawn newspaper, they've mentioned it here that the Ahmadi place of worship, the mosque there, was attacked after a chipboard factory was attacked. And this was all the case due to allegations of blasphemy under the Blasphemy Act. So the Dawn newspaper here, you should be able to see that on screen, they mentioned that. And also I've got another article here. This blasphemy law is not just being used against the Ahmadis. It's very important to mention that this is also something that affects other minorities. For example, here we've got the Christian minority in Pakistan, and they are saying that these blasphemy laws are actually being misused against them. There's a very interesting article here by The Independent, and they spoke to one Christian there living in Pakistan, and he said that these blasphemy allegations were posed against him just to settle a petty matter between his neighbor. So we're seeing that people are actually misusing this law. And finally, there was a recent attacks on the Shia minority in Pakistan again. So there's a graphic here from Al Jazeera. They've shown some details on quite a large attack that happened in May, when fortunately 43 people were killed just for the fact that they were members of the Shia community.
So the Ismailis, who are a subsect within Shias, perhaps.
That's right. So it's affecting so many different communities within Pakistan, and that's why it's such an important issue that we need to discuss.
Well, thank you. So a lot to discuss about today then. As you mentioned earlier on, Jhelum attacks against Ahmadis have been recent attacks, very shameful indeed. We have prepared a short video report for you to have a look at, and let's then start the discussion once we've seen the report and have some scenes set for it.
Jhelum,
a city historically known as a land of soldiers, recently witnessed a horrific incident that changed the identity of this city. On the eve of 20th November 2015, an unbridled mob burned down a factory owned by members of the Ahmadiyya community in Jhelum after allegations of committing blasphemy. According to eyewitnesses, hundreds of people surrounded the chipboard factory while the employees were still working in the plant.
People accuse the owner of the factory to have burned the Holy Quran, yet the fact is that only burnt pages have been recovered, even without any evidence against the owner. The area residents burned the factory in the anguish.
People said Quran had been disrespected, but I think the public reaction was not justified too, as our religion does not allow this. As a Muslim, we are against such behavior. Only God knows what happened. Without evidence, this shouldn't have happened.
Police came to the factory and to disperse the crowd they pelted stones, did aerial firing and even used tear gas, but the mob was uncontrollable. Then the rangers had to be called in and the army took over the area.
Fortunately, no one was injured in the fire, but the mob continued the destruction by setting an Ahmadiyya mosque on fire and also blocked the main GT road for hours until the police arrested 3 members of Ahmadiyya sect. Today, this locality presents a deserted picture as majority of residents have fled the place fearing for their safety. The local police station has also been closed and no policeman wants to give an official statement on the incident. Disappointed with the Jhelum police, the Punjab government was approached for answers, where the official spokesperson Zaim Qadri assured that they are doing the needful.
The people who were involved in that the miscreant activity were all arrested and they are all behind bars. Okay. And they would not be let free, let me tell you this. Okay. Because anybody who's not a Muslim has all the same rights under the Constitution of 1973 which a normal Pakistani Muslim has.
Sources revealed that 3 FIRs have been registered by Ahmadiyya community with more than 87 nominated and 1,200 unknown accused. So far, 82 accused have been arrested and sent on judicial remand by Anti-Terrorism Court Rawalpindi. Sadly, this is not the first time that minorities have been attacked on charges of blasphemy in Pakistan, a democratic state where rulers have time and again ensured protection and equality for all.
जब मैं वज़ीर-ए-आज़म हूँ तो मैं आप सबका वज़ीर-ए-आज़म हूँ। जितने भी मज़हब के लोग यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं मैं सबका वज़ीर-ए-आज़म हूँ और मेरा ये फ़र्ज़ बनता है, फ़र्ज़ मेरी ये ड्यूटी है कि मैं हर एक के काम आऊँ।
But the on-ground situation is far from this. According to the official reports, in the first quarter of 2015, 384 casualties resulted from the violence against minorities. The second and third quarter showed a decline in violence overall and against minorities, but it is the fourth quarter that witnessed incidents like the Jhelum attack, and once the year completes, overall data for the 2015 in terms of minorities will not be a pretty picture.
There have been a lot of breaches. Yes, I agree. If you have people with the thought that only Muslims have the liberty to live in this country, they have to be curtailed, controlled, and this is what National Action Plan is doing. So the government can't get into people's minds, but can prepare a ground socially that people would not take law in their own hands.
Government promises aside, the public have different take on the status of minorities in Pakistan.
Substantive part of the law is there, but these rights are not being implemented by the state functionaries, and in this regard I think the state has failed to ensure the protection of their rights of minorities.
I believe that situation back in the 80s and 70s was much better. They feel threatened. There had been incidents where minorities were targeted, but as far as the people of Pakistan or the government of Pakistan is concerned, by and large, they do respect their rights.
Surely one cannot blame the entire society for the wrongdoings of a few. Yet we cannot ignore the fact that today, in the heart of every minority residing in Pakistan, lives the tightly coiled nightmare of persecution. The continued persecution without prosecution for decades that has fueled the violation of the rights of minorities, particularly Ahmadis in Pakistan. We sincerely hope and pray for the year 2016 proves to be the better year for the minorities of Pakistan as compared to this year.
Well, that's the hope and desire that 2016 becomes a better year. Can I start with Ms. Saeed first? You've been covering similar stories in the past. You've covered even Gujranwala attacks. Also, you've covered Jhelum attacks. What is the reason? Why does the local population, local residents, they behave the way they behave?
Actually, it's word of mouth. When somebody thinks something is happening, they tell the other person. It's like the Chinese whispers. It starts off small, but it becomes really big. And when the mob comes to a place, they don't think, they just follow each other. That's what happened in the Gujranwala incident last year. But this year, the Jhelum attack, it was more of a controversy kind of a thing because it wasn't clear what happened. It was just a rumor that started off, and people were still inside the factory when they started, the local residents, they started burning it. And it's on record that even the police came after 20 minutes in such a small area.
Right.
If it was a big city like Karachi or Lahore or Islamabad, 20 minutes would have been like all right. But in such a small city like Jhelum, 20 minutes for the police to arrive is something that's not normal. They should have been there in 2 to 3 minutes. And then the area residents and the eyewitnesses said that they were just standing there and watching it because they had a fear of their own life. And when they started controlling the people, they pelted stones, they used tear gas, but all that just enraged them further, and they went and closed the GT road that connects Jhelum to the rest of the country. So basically the mob doesn't think. They just follow each other, and they just want to take out their personal anguish. They don't know if you...
And personal anguish on the factory where a lot of people employed?
No, personal anguish of their own with life, with the struggle. They would just take out their own personal anguish on things in the name of religion. Because if you asked, if 400 people were behind this attack in Jhelum, if you asked 300, they wouldn't know why they're here.
That's right.
Similarly, that's what happened in Gujranwala last year, but there was a big difference this year when we saw that this Jhelum attack happened and the coverage was tried to be done. The thing was that there were too many hurdles. The government has put agency guards there, and people are not allowed to shoot there. They're not allowed to ask people there. Majority of the people in this area have left the area. They have left living there their whole life, their houses and everything, because they fear for their life now. The government is trying to control that area and not letting anybody intervene.
Right, which is very strange. Thank you very much. Amir Sahib, of course we looked at the other side of the story. What about the Ahmadiyya community in general? Such incidents of hatred and attacks on them, do they respond back through ransacking public property, looting public property? How do they retaliate as a result?
I think you'll find that although we have suffered persecution now for many years, even the attacks on the 2 mosques in 2010 where 85 people lost their lives, the response of the Ahmadiyya community is that we supplicate to Allah the Almighty and ask Him for help. We do not demonstrate, we do not go out on the streets, we do not lobby politicians. We leave everything to Allah the Almighty. And I think for us that is the only road that we leave to Allah the Almighty to bring some kind of peace in society in Pakistan, because currently the society is in turmoil for different reasons. As you mentioned, people have their own struggles, and then the law, the legislation, that doesn't help either. So it's a combination of factors which brings people out onto the streets. And once you have the mob out there, then anything is likely. Even we find that the police, unfortunately, are totally ineffective. Perhaps they're complicit in some cases. And therefore, I think they allow sometimes this violence to take place.
Mr. We have now Raza Rumi online with us. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Rumi. Are you with us online? Can you hear us?
Yes, walaikum assalam. I am online and I can hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. You're a very well-known person on social media with your the services to electronic media as to print media are known to us. You yourself has been a victim of assassination attack, haven't you? I mean, you lost your driver, I think his name was Mustafa, last year. So certainly you know quite well the ground realities. What is this telling us about the psyche and the mindset of general public, the masses of Pakistan?
Well, I think obviously there has been, years and years of indoctrination about a particular version of Islam and a particular version of national identity. And now we are seeing that, come to full sort of play, where, the minority sects within Islam and non-Muslims, they are the other or the ones outside the mainstream nationalist identity. And unfortunately, what has happened is that I was looking at the package and where the minister said that we can't really get into the minds of the people. I think the Punjab government representative was being not fully truthful, because it is the government and the state which has actually got into the minds of the people. There has been 3 or 4 decades of persistent propaganda against the Ahmadiyya community. And, I myself can vouch for that, because I grew up in Pakistan. I went to schools there. And, the kind of things our teachers taught us, the kind of things you would read on the walls, the kind of, hate propaganda you would get on railway stations, in the buses, which, and it still happens, the whole community is defamed and denigrated and called, there are all sorts of conspiracies, that not being Muslim is just one part, but the fact that they are kind of anti-Pakistan forces, they are the, representative of Jews and all sorts of kafirs, and etc. And that goes into the pop mind, 2 generations have grown up with these ideas. Look at the Hafiz Center in Lahore, I also kind of raised that issue, and we saw that Punjab government sent the police and removed the hate posters against Ahmadiyya community, and then within days those posters were back, and the traders, and these are not poor uneducated people whom we think are brainwashed or whatever. These are your rich, educated, well-to-do class of Lahore, trader merchants. They have the sales in millions. And they are now propagating all of that stuff. They've put up these really shameful posters now back, again peddling all conspiracies.
Mr. Rumi, we'll look at that a bit more in detail a little bit later on. We'll come back to you. Please stay on the line, because we'll come back to you and discuss about those posters as well a bit later on. Ghaalib Khan Sahib, what do you have now for us? You've got some sort of
important point that
condemnation
Mr. made there about those posters, and like you said, we'll come back to that later on in the program. Looking back at the Jhelum incident, there was worldwide condemnation about this, because it was such a barbaric attack and something that was baseless, as we mentioned in our discussion. So there's one slide that I just wanted to show on screen, and that was from the US Commission on International Religious Freedom, and we have some other comments that I'm going to mention later on. So I'll just read this here. The US CIRF strongly condemns this attack against the Ahmadi Muslim community and is saddened by reports that people are fleeing their homes in fear for their lives. This according to the chairman, Robert P. George. He goes on to say, while the Pakistani government reportedly has dispatched the army to restore peace and detained more than 40 suspects, the government needs to do much more to stem the climate of impunity that pervades Pakistan. To these ends, as a first step, the government should provide protection to the Ahmadi community and denounce language clerics use that incites hatred and violence. It's a very important point that they've made there. And also on social media as well, a number of people will be commenting about this. I've got 2 here that I just want to mention. The first comment is from a user called White Sky, and they go on to say that there's 0% tolerance for violence, but 100% tolerance for blasphemy accusers and killers, which is a very sad situation. There's another comment from a user, Sabi, who says that the mullahs and Pakistan cannot go on together. The mullahs are behind the conspiracy of false allegation of blasphemy and burning to ashes the factory that costs hundreds of thousands or millions. So obviously there is condemnation for this on social media. It's not like people have just ignored these attacks.
I'll come back to you again now. Also, we have got something with regards to government's rhetoric on this. The government has promised something. The Prime Minister himself has gone to Hindus, we heard a few moments back. What has he promised and what is happening as a result?
So it's very interesting. We saw a video clip there in our report about the Jhelum incident. So the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif of Pakistan has he made an address to the Hindu community there, and I just want to read one line. Basically, he said here that every community, I'll just highlight this so our viewers at home can see it as well, every community living here, with, whether Hindu, Muslim or Parsi, which is an ethnic minority group, everyone belongs to me and I belong to them. I am Prime Minister of all communities. So obviously he is making that declaration that Pakistan is a very inclusive society, and let's hope that he's able to fulfill those.
Very interesting, Ms. Said. I mean, this is rhetoric which certainly is commendable. The Prime Minister has said that he is from the minority and they're from him. But looking at the ground reality, is it in compliance with the rhetoric?
The ground reality has changed over the years. I would say that a long time back, if we see like 10 years ago, the media was not talking about blasphemy. Media was not talking about any of these incidents. I myself was working in a newspaper, and we were given strict instructions that if anything comes up under blasphemy, any report or any article, just don't carry it in the newspaper. Then with time, the governments changed. PMLN government came twice, and then PPP government came twice, and the media has become more vocal. It's freedom of speech that we have to bear the punishment now, like Raza Rumi Saab was attacked and many of the channels are attacked because they are now vocal. If the Gujranwala incident happened last year, it was reported. So we have to bear the punishment for that. And now the Jhelum incident has happened. So these things are coming out in the open, and the perpetrators are being brought to justice, and things are happening. But the thing is that these things have been happening for many years. Now the media is speaking about them doesn't mean that the crime is going up. The society is becoming more intolerant. No, the society is the same as it was 10, 15 years ago. We are more reporting it now, and the government is trying to do some things. Like in Hafiz Center last week, the Punjab police was sent and they tried to remove the hate speech posters from various shops, and they did remove it. But the very next day, we saw the reaction of the traders. They came out on the roads, they protested. And as PMLN government is a pro-traders government, so that's why they had to bend down and they listened to them.
So there's two dimensions to it. One is, of course, siding with perhaps the extremist element, but also at the same time being capitalist as a government.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Amir Sahib, what's your take on this? Is the government really wanting to help, or is it completely helpless because of its weakness, perhaps?
Well, I think we've seen their record. Now they've been here for quite a long time, and they have not done anything to try and protect the minorities, in spite of what the Prime Minister said on that particular showing. The thing is that the politicians, we found when we had the attack in 2010, the only politician who came and paid respect was Sulman Taseer Sahib.
Yes.
And we know what happened to him. So I think there is a combination. One, some of the politicians who even want to support us are too afraid to speak out.
Right.
And then there is the others who deliberately target us to promote hatred against us. And unfortunately, there isn't a strong enough leader in the country who can stand up. I mean, if you look at what, when Jinnah created Pakistan, the intention was that we should have a secular Pakistan. We, the Ahmadiyya community and members of the Ahmadiyya community who live in Pakistan, are people who've lived there for hundreds of years. Their family grew up. They have no other citizenship. And to deny them basic rights in their own country is, I think, against any human rights whatsoever anywhere in the world.
Right. And Ms. Sabsa, how is, of course, question both of you, then in those circumstances where the law, in fact, doesn't allow you to practice, preach, or profess your faith, at the same time, schools and colleges, life is not normal there. You're boycotted at at shopping centres for being sold goods. At the same time, jobs are a problem. So how is it normal for Ahmadis, or is it normal for Ahmadis to live their lives in Pakistan?
No, I think it's very difficult for Ahmadis to live their life in Pakistan. I think I look up to the Ahmadis who are living there in spite of all the persecution. I take my hat off them because they must be living in the most difficult circumstances in that country. And the thing is that we need the leaders of Pakistan to speak up and say this is not acceptable. And before that, they have to change the blasphemy laws, because I think a lot of people are using the blasphemy laws to sometimes just settle personal disputes against other people. If they're land disputes, they use blasphemy laws. And I'm sure that if you look deeper into the incident in Jhelum, you'll probably find that somebody was trying to settle a personal dispute when he spoke about blasphemy and motivated the crowd to come and burn the factory down.
So now we have Suklan Imam Saab, one of the journalists in the UK, serves in BBC. Mr. Imam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Again, you are a very senior journalist. You've been serving in Pakistan, in Lahore. You've been the president of Lahore Press Club and also Punjab Union of Journalists. What's your take on this? The Prime Minister has said that if you are in distress, to Hindus he says, I will stand by you, even if a Muslim commits an injustice. I will stand with the victim. This is extremely commendable pledge, isn't it? I mean, why do people still criticize the government that it's not willing to help the minorities then?
Well, in general, people have been indoctrinated in Pakistani politics they have been indoctrinated for the last, I think, 30, 40 years, which started right from the concept of making Pakistan an Islamic state. And in the beginning, the Islamic concept of the state was just to the extent of making it a part of a Muslim commonwealth. But recently, I mean recently means in the last 30 years, since General Ziaul Haq days, the concept of making Pakistan an Islamic state moved from making it a member of a Muslim commonwealth to making it into a Sharia enforcing or Islamic laws enforcing instrument on the society. So that has changed completely the character of Pakistani state, and it is not only becoming problem for the minorities who are not Muslims, it is also has become a problem, rather a serious problem, for the Muslims who are not part of the mainstream dominant narrative of the state. For instance, there are normally, we talk about Hindus and Christians, Sikhs, of this type of people who are by definition of very standard, they are minority and they don't claim that they are part of Muslim society. They say they are non-Muslims. But when state takes a character of defining itself as an Islamic law enforcement agency, then it starts defining who is Muslim and who is not, which essentially is not part of the state. But in that process of defining who's Muslim and who's not Muslim, the state has expelling some sections of Muslims from the Muslim body politic and from Muslim society. And,
if I understand correctly, what you're saying is
expelling them from the Muslim. Yes, sir.
What you're saying is, in fact, that laws which were brought in 1974, then again were strengthened in 1984 by Ziaul Haq. Those are the ones responsible?
For amendment of the Constitution, Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, perhaps was most, I would say, abominable legislation ever made by any parliament, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, because I have never seen any state defining or declaring a section of its own society, whether it's Muslim or not, or Christian or not, or Jews or not. In fact, even Israel, which is a declared Jewish state, it doesn't declare any of its sect. I mean, there are many Jewish sects. None of them has ever been discussed in a way that it should, whether a sect is Jewish or not. There are some Jewish who are against the state of Israel, but even the state of Israel has never touched on this issue, whether they are Jews or not. But Pakistan is a unique example, and this legislation of 1974, which is basically the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, is unique in the sense that it has declared one community of Pakistani society as non-Muslim, and subsequently other laws were targeted to this community to deprive it of its basic fundamental rights. Even, let's suppose, if Pakistani state declares them or has declared them, as we know, as minorities, as non-Muslims, but even then they have right to practice their religion that they way like, they believe, the way they believe it. But they have been deprived. Gradually, the laws have been becoming stricter against them, and now they are so much discriminatory against this community that it is inconceivable for any Ahmadi to live in Pakistan in safety, because law doesn't support them, law doesn't provide them any protection, and society itself has been made radicalized against them.
Mr. Imam, we'll come back to you again. But one very quick question before we leave now for 1 minute, please. I mean, yes, these laws have, of course, not helped Ahmadis' cause anyway. Ahmadis are living a very strange life in Pakistan, but hasn't it really affected everyone else now? The Pandora's box was opened, but isn't the public now realizing that the box that was allowed to be opened then is now biting them all?
I think Pakistani people have not realized the adverse consequences of this legislation. Still, the process is being further, deepened of de-Islamizing other communities as well. And even we normally say, if you see the narrative of the Pakistani media and other public domains, public opinion leaders and some journalists, not all, but some journalists who dominate the media, some anchor persons, some political leaders. We have seen in the case of, for instance, Mr. Salman Taseer, as one of your panelists was very, I would say, candidly describing that when he was killed, Mr. Salman Taseer, and Salman Taseer happened to have been part of a mainstream Sunni Muslim society. But because of his stand for minority women, women of a weaker section of the society, I won't say she was, Salman Taseer was supporting because she was Christian. Salman Taseer was supporting her because she belongs to a weaker section of the society.
Thank you, Mr.
She
Imam.
is
We'll
a
come back
poor
to you
Christian
now.
woman.
Very interesting
and,
comments.
In the normal
and your observations.
circumstances, if that
We'll come
kind
back
of
to you.
women had...
We'll come back to you again. Now, Mr. Ghaalib Khan's got some more news. I think another shameful news to look at. What's the news you've got?
Well, the main thing I want to focus on right now is the incident that happened in Lahore, the Hafiz Centre, and we touched on it, but I think it's really important to look at that in a bit more detail. And I'm just going to get something up on screen. So the thing that was different with this, just to shed a bit more light onto it, there was a large IT store in Lahore there, the Hafiz Centre. The shop owner put a sign up using very derogatory terms against these, referring to them as Qadianis, saying that they weren't allowed to come into the shop. Now, the interesting thing here is that social activists brought that to the attention of the authorities there in the area, and they actually went to remove the posters. So this was a very positive step, but unfortunately what happened, and the occurrences after that, was that then the next day we had this mob of hundreds of people who came down to that centre with signs protesting and saying that the police had actually done a horrible thing by removing this. And I think that's a very interesting advancement, because it's such a sensitive area that we're touching on. Like we mentioned, the politicians are trying to do something about it. Some of them are trying to take steps, but as soon as they do, the radicals and the people who have these beliefs are really pushing their agenda, and they're using force and protest to highlight that. And we can see this photo here on the screen of the authorities taking the signs off, and then the next day, unfortunately, there was a mob that turned up at the store to protest against it.
Thank you very much. Let's go and speak to Mr. Raza Rumi, who has been very involved with this, of course, in social media. His news was picked by Punjab government as well. Mr. Rumi, can you hear me now? Perhaps you can't hear him. I think the connection is probably lost. He's in America right now, in the US, so we'll go back again and talk to him.
Staying on that Lahore incident, if we can bring Ms. Said in, what was your view on what happened there in Lahore?
I've been going to that market for many years now, and they have these posters and tiny, banners kind of thing saying that Qadianis are not allowed inside the shop, and we're not going to sell anything to Qadianis or Ahmadis. So they've been there for many, many years, and last week the police went there and they wanted to take off those stickers. They managed to do that, but this resulted in the anger of the traders of that market. So the very next day, those traders brought all of their friends, and everybody from that market became one big mob, and they protested outside the Hafiz Centre. They closed down the entire IT market, and all they protested was for, why did you ask us to take off those banners? We do not like Ahmadis. Ahmadis. We do not want to trade with them. You cannot force us not to allow them into our shops. So basically it was a good thing by the government that they tried and they initiated, but they immediately got this rejection from the people that we're not going to change, we're not going to let people into our shops, and we're not going to live with them in the same society. So
and that can't be conducive to a healthy, open society.
Exactly. So the National Action Plan that they have been speaking about, it has just backlapsed now. It cannot be done. And this is a small example, but this is the only example that we have in the past many years that the PMLN government has pulled off.
Yeah. I think we have Reza Rumi
yes,
on
Reza Rumi.
Skype.
Let's have Amir Saab's word on that very quickly.
The thing is that this hatred does not confine itself to just Pakistan.
Yes.
Because what we have seen in this country as well, that the Pakistani community in this country has also been tainted by that hate message. And indeed, in London itself, in Tooting, we had incidents where a restaurant owner put up notices saying that no Ahmadis are going to be welcome in the restaurant here. It was only because of the authorities in this country, they acted very quickly, and that was brought under control. But the only way that the thing in Pakistan is going to be brought under control is if the leaders come out and speak openly, and they'll have to do it for a long time. It's no good just once they come and say something, unless they repeatedly, and all of them come and continue to condemn what is going on, it is not going to change.
Thank you. Now we have Mr. Reza Rumi on the phone again. Reza Sahib, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Looking at some of your articles you've written recently, I think the very interesting points you're making, one of the articles I'm referring to now, where you've mentioned about the misuse of blasphemy laws in Pakistan's court systems. Now, how widespread is that problem in your view in the court system in Pakistan?
Yes, the blasphemy law and its misuse has increased tremendously over the years. And, the recent ICJ report, and I also interviewed the ICJ head of the Asia operations. And, more and more incidents are coming out where this law is now being flagrantly applied to personal disputes, as was shown in your earlier report. But at the same time, also, it is becoming a kind of a no-go area for a lot of courts and judges and the police. So, for example, if you get booked under the blasphemy law, then the bail, which is a right for most accused, is also denied, and delays occur for up to 3 to 5 years before any form of justice can be served. So I think that the spike has come about in the last decade or so. In particular, it was always there, but the numbers have really gone up now.
Right. Probably lost you. Ghaalib, can you have some more tweets for us, please?
I wanted to mention some tweets. Like I said, to all the viewers watching at home, you can get in touch at Presspoint MTA. We've got some tweets that are coming right now, so I just want to pose those to you. We've got one from Sultan Sheikh, and he says that it requires a complete change of national narrative on war footing basis to reverse the horrific impacts of anti-Ahmadiyya laws. It's quite strong words used there. There's another comment that every Pakistani is paying the price for the wrong blasphemy law, which was just made to target Ahmadis. Now everyone is a target. So that's echoing the discussion that we're having today, that it's not just affecting the Ahmadi community, but now everyone seems to come under the scope of these blasphemy laws.
I think we might have another video lined up for us, which is Hina Rabbani Kar, one of Pakistan's foreign ministers a few years back. And she has answered a question on Al Jazeera recently, which is very interesting and insightful. If we have that video available to us now, let's have a quick look through that and see what she said in that video.
Hundreds of Ahmadi Muslims in Pakistan have been killed simply on grounds of faith, whether it's in their mosques, their homes, or places of business. How can Pakistan inculcate a culture of tolerance when your own constitution and laws explicitly target Ahmadi Muslims, making it a crime punishable by 3 years imprisonment or by death under the blasphemy laws for an Ahmadi to call themselves a Muslim? Isn't it time Pakistan repealed these laws and ended its state-sponsored persecution of Ahmadis?
Okay, I'm embarrassed to be a Pakistani when I remember the fact that the white in our flag represents the right of minorities, and Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, even before August 1947, said that you are allowed to go to your mosque, you're allowed to go to... It is not the business of state, he said, to question your religion. I'm embarrassed that we've done to minorities what we've done in Pakistan. I will accept it.
So just to be clear, in terms of policy levels, things like a Pakistani goes to get a passport and has to declare that Ahmadi is a non-Muslim, that's an outrage, is it not?
I think that is completely unrequired. That's my personal view.
Right, now we have Mr. Khalil Yusuf, who is Deputy Director of Communications at International Ahmadiyya Press and Media Office. And let's hear his comments about what Ms. Kerr has said. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Khalil Yusuf. Can you hear me at all?
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Very well. How are you doing?
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
So let's have a quick discussion on what Ms. Kerr has said. I wonder if you've heard what she said. What are your views on what she has been saying about her feeling on the laws against Ahmadis?
I did hear it. I think that it's a positive development. Somebody of her seniority recognises the great challenge that is faced by the state of Pakistan. I think the first point to make is that Ahmadis stand with Pakistanis. All Pakistanis are not engaged in extremism. All Pakistanis are not engaged in terrorism. And all Pakistanis do not support the stance that is taken by the extremist minorities against Ahmadis and Shias, Hindus, and Christians. Most Pakistanis, by and large, accept that there should be equality and freedom of religion. But the truth is that since 1984, since legislation has been passed in Pakistan Ordinance 20, which you discussed at some length today, an entire generation has been brought up with the mindset that one religious belief is better than another. One group has a greater entitlement to religious liberty than another. And that is in stark contradiction, not only to international law, but in relation to national law. Pakistan has signed a number of international conventions.
Audio is very bad. We'll come back to you in a few moments again. If you please stay put, we'll try to call you back maybe on the phone. Will be better voice there and sound. Ghaalib Sahab, we can see some sort of paradigm shift or shift in attitudes of people in Pakistan through social media. Share with us something which really has a positive note.
Yeah, so we're hoping that there is a bit of a shift, and there's a really important campaign that I want to bring to your attention. It's called the I Stand With Ahmadis campaign, hashtag I Stand With Ahmadis, and this was started after the Jhelum incident, what happened, and it's really trying to bring this to the forefront of people's attention. There's so many people living around the world who don't really understand what this is all about, the wider issues. So to bring that, I've got this on my screen right now, and hopefully the viewers at home can see this as well. So this a website, it's a full social media campaign about I Stand With Ahmadis, and I think we've got some photos as some slides that we're able to show. There were some comments that I wanted to read out. I've just got them in a document here. So this is something that people from all different parts of society have gone along with, and I'm sure Ms. Sayyid has some involvement in that and understands how important this has become. So we've got one comment here regarding this saying, if the leaders of a nation are unable to answer to their people, it's because their conscience is guilty. And another person said that they stand with Ahmadis because humanity is their religion. So this is something that has really spawned across many different aspects of society, and it's one way of using social media to actually affect and bring about a bit of good in society.
Yes. Sorry. See, the problem with social media is it's very good and very effective, but Pakistan has 200 million inhabitants, and how many of them actually use social media? Probably less than 1%.
Yes.
So your society is not going to change purely based on what is happening in the social media. And this is where I come back, that if change is going to come to Pakistan, change first has to be through legislation. They have to repeal the blasphemy law. Without that, we cannot even start making change in Pakistan. And then, not only the politicians, but anchors. We've seen some of the anchors who promote hatred against Ahmadis and other minorities on television. and nobody stops them.
And they are given very high positions.
They are acknowledged by the all and sundry as being the best in the country that, and therefore, if change is going to come to Pakistan, we have to honestly look at what type of society we want to create. At this moment in time, the society we have is unfortunately filled with hatred, and it's not only against one minority now, it's against all minorities. And now the Sunni-Shia conflict has started. And this is not going to stop, because then further it goes into Deobandis against somebody else, and the whole thing will accelerate, and we will have total chaos in society.
Ms. Said, what's your reading on that? Do you think social media is making a difference?
I agree with him. I think change is happening slowly and steadily, not through the constitution. Obviously, we need the changes in the law, but change is taking place. I've lived all my life in Pakistan. Never have I heard anybody tell me or show in public that they are an MD, but on social media, they do have the confidence to come up. And regarding this last incident in Lahore, the IT market, a lot of people who are not Ahmadis have come up on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and other social agents, and they have said it in open that this is not right. At least we are talking about it. At least they have come out in the open and they have supported Ahmadis and all the minorities. I'm sorry to be a Pakistani. I'm sorry to say that the green in our flag is growing and the white is shrinking. But still, I'm very proud and happy that there are people like me, like other journalists and other public who are speaking on the social media at least, and they are supporting the minorities. So I will differ here. The change is taking place by the common man. But in the end, the common man is the majority, and they will bring a change. So
it's a very optimistic view you're taking. But do you really think now, comparing when you were in Pakistan, of course you do go back and forth, when we were growing up as young people, has Pakistan changed because of social media? Is it becoming more open now? A majority that was silent before. Are you saying they're speaking up?
No, I wouldn't say the times have changed or the things have changed. No. The intolerance that was there 10, 15 years ago, it's even there now. It hasn't grown or diminished. It is the same. But now we have a platform where we can go and anonymously maybe voice our opinion, because we are not in direct threat of somebody attacking us. So people have that confidence, a little bit confidence of going out on the social media and saying it. But again, the society is the same. Nothing has changed. We need to change the mindset. Like Raza Rumi said, educational institutions. We need to have proper teachers there who do not spread hatred, but who teach students that, be it Muslim or any other community, minority or anybody, everybody has the freedom of practicing their own religion. And we need to create harmony and peace instead of creating differences and doing hate speech. The core is, after what you have said, changing the laws, the core is educational institutions.
Thank you very much. Let's go now back to Mr. Saklan Imam. I hope he's back online again. He can hear us loud and clear. Mr. Imam, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll go back to your previous point you were making about the laws in Pakistan then. Does Pakistan have any law or anything in constitution which stops these gatherings and mobs who are there, get together, who will abuse, they threat to kill people and put on all kinds of slogans of hatred? Does law protect them at all, the people who are on the receiving end?
Before I reply to your question, let me make my position clear. I had just erroneously made a wrong amendment, mention of the Fourth Amendment. It's the Second Amendment, which had actually declared Ahmadis as non-Muslims in Pakistani Constitution.
Thank you.
Your question is very important. There are laws on the book. Pakistan has basic two problems with reference to especially Ahmadis and other minorities. There are discrimination within the minorities. Ahmadi minority is treated, I think, perhaps in the worst possible manner in any country one can imagine. For instance, other minorities are not safe in Pakistan. Shias are not safe in Pakistan. Hindus are not safe in Pakistan. Baloch, who are ethnic minority, are not well protected. We understand missing and killing and dumping of the dead bodies. They are not safe. But for Ahmadis, for these minorities, other than Ahmadis, there are laws which are not properly applied for their protection. For instance, there are laws that if anybody is attacked from among Shias or Hindus or Christians, law enforcement agencies are supposed to protect them. But there is no law which actually criminalizes any one of their religion. But for Ahmadis, the state itself has criminalized the practice of their religion. For instance, if any Ahmadi practices the way he believes his religion is, if he builds a mosque, or if he offers a prayer, or if he call an azan, which he believes is azan, is a criminal act in Pakistan. This is I would say, in the present day civilized world, let's suppose if in United States of America, Donald Trump has said something, we should ban Muslims for a very small minority Muslims, criminal acts of terrorism, the world has stood up against him. Worse than that, he made just a statement against Muslims that they should be banned. But on the contrary, in Pakistan, if an Ahmadi practices the way he believes his religion is, I mean, I am not judging whether they are Muslims or not, or some other sect is Muslim or not. I'm not judging it. Whatever that situation is it is for the clerics to decide. I'm being a secular person, would never judge anybody for his faith or for his religion. But if an Ahmadi believes in something and if he practices, he has right to practice it. If he wants to fast, he has right to fast. If he wants to offer praise, he has right to offer praise. If a Hindu wants to go to a temple, he has right to go to temple. If a Christian wants to go to a church, he has a right to go to church. Similarly, if a Barelvi wants to go to a shrine, he has right to go to a shrine. If a Salafi wants to go some other stricter places, he has right to go. But it is the only one community across the world where if the member of that community practices its own religion, is a criminal act. So in that situation, the life for an Ahmadi is worse than any other minority in Pakistan or in any part of the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Imam. You have shed light on this very eloquently. I will go back now to Ghaalib Sahib. Ghaalib, you've got some more tweets coming in.
We have some more tweets coming in, very active on social media. There's one message from Kaila Pasha, and she says, I am a Sunni woman and I stand against Ahmadi persecution, Ahmadi apartheid and Sunni supremacy. There's another tweet that's come in that says, neutrality only helps the oppressor and never the victim. And just a third one I want to just mention if you have enough time. True justice demands that we must stop oppression of the oppressed communities as it's happening to Ahmadis in Pakistan. So all of these tweets that were sent out have the hashtag I stand with Ahmadis. And just once again, I just want to show that to our viewers as well. The viewers at home can log on, and we've got some pictures, I think, of other people who have actually sent in their photos from different aspects of society. So all of them are sending their messages of support with the hashtag I stand with Ahmadis. And as Ms. Said was saying, that is producing some sort of small change. It might be small, but it's that snowball effect, and we hope that it will lead to something bigger.
Thank you very much for the time being. So yeah, certainly there's some hope there. So let's finish off this program in the last few minutes, maybe a couple of minutes we have left. So what is your hope for 2016 now? Amir Sahib.
Well, my hope for 2016 is that we have to try and bring change in the society. I think change has to take place in the society in every country, because I think at this moment in time we're living in a period where there's conflict everywhere. Islam's name is being tainted by the extremists, and Islam, which is a peaceful religion, is being shown in the worst possible form by some of the extremists. So my hope for 2016 is that may Allah assist us to bring peace in our society. It is very, very important for our generations, our children, our progeny, that we live in a peaceful society. As far as Pakistan is concerned, my hope is that politicians in Pakistan, because it's got to be led by the politicians in Pakistan actually do see the error of their ways and do make a change to bring peace in the society. Otherwise, Pakistan will go on the road to destruction. And if we can't do that, just one final point, I applaud what is happening in the social media. Please don't get me wrong. And I think that eventually will happen. What I was mentioning was that in Pakistan we have 200 million people, and you've seen the crowds that go and do destruction, they're not social media savvy. And unless we bring change in society, social media alone cannot bring change in the whole society.
Let's say 30 seconds to go back to.
Social media will not bring that massive change, but it's just a step, and we all need to spread the message of love. As part of journalist community, I really hope that 2016 brings a more objective and a neutral media that reports objectively about all these matters and does not spread hatred.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to Mr. Raza Rumi. Last few seconds, what do you think? What is the hope for 2016?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what has been said, that, you know, changing the media presentation and narratives, and how young Pakistanis are now responding to this intolerance is very encouraging. You know, a lot of people you see on Facebook and Twitter and other platforms are not Ahmadis, you know, but they are standing with the Ahmadi community, to resist the persecution. But I think the most important step for 2016 is for some daring politician to go to Parliament and submit a bill which revokes the Ordinance 20 of 1980, which is the root cause now for this kind of apartheid that is taking place, and almost which reminds you of Nazi Germany, the kind of posters and things you hear.
Thank you very much, and keep up the good work. You are well known in the social media and you're doing a very good job, and people do commend it. Thank you very much, Mr. Rumi. Have a good time whilst you're in the US. Okay, so now the closing remarks maybe. Pakistan's language is Urdu, and the language is very well absorbing all kinds of cultures in that. And the history of Urdu is all about different languages and different cultures being very nicely absorbed like a sponge. Pakistan also has same genesis, about absorbing nations, absorbing cultures, absorbing people, not excluding its own. If Pakistan becomes what it is, it becomes like Urdu language, then Pakistan becomes a beautiful nation, a lovely country to be for all kinds of tourism, not terrorism. Dear friends, this time we have again got together, discussed about ways forward. I hope people do hear them. At the end, if anybody has any doubts about Ahmadiyya community doing anything about blasphemy or anything to do with blasphemy, perhaps listen to the Friday sermon that Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the head of the Ahmadi community, gave last Friday. In love and reverence of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the light of the writings of the founder of the Ahmadi community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who Ahmadis believe to be the promised Messiah. He says, Badas Khuda ba ishke Muhammad Mukhammaram, gar kufr I babad ba Khuda sakht kafiram. It means, after the Almighty Allah, I'm intoxicated in the love of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if that is infidelity, then by God, I'm the infidel of the highest order. Let's have a prayer and wish for a better, more prosperous and safer 2016 for everyone, everywhere in the world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Community has launched the campaign to try and counter the extremists.
Now speaking out to denounce terror and extremism.
30,000 people formed a human chain in the south this afternoon in the name of peace.
We're asking if religious intolerance is on the rise.
We believe that religious freedom is a fundamental human right.
Giving a message that Islam is a religion of peace.
We must all endeavor to spread love and a sense of community.